So one of the things that I'm slowly but surely starting to realize is that when you're telling a story, it's less about what happened, but it's more important and interesting how it happened. So I'm gonna try to communicate as clearly as possible, what actually went down. And in order to do that, I'm gonna need you to get up out of your chairs really quickly, and I'm gonna need you to go to your closet and grab your time machine. And I'm gonna need you to take 2 steps into that time machine and go back with me about 8 or 9 months. And why that is important, because I was sitting in this room right here, and I started to make a lot of comedy videos. And those videos were trying to just expand my creativity and see what more I could do with my guitar playing. And I was having a lot of fun. I was having a good time. But one of the small little things that was bothering me is that whenever I was making those videos, I would use a big heavy tube amp that would make a lot of noise, and I've talked about this before, but my neighbors were not happy with me, and they were actually ready to come in with their army and declare war on me. And I was not ready to go war. I was not ready to go to war at all. My army hasn't fought in a long time, and we're not prepared for that. So I wanted to appease my neighbors. I went on Facebook Marketplace. I actually ended up finding for myself the deal of a lifetime, and where I ended up was in a Home Depot parking lot with $300 cash in my pocket, ready for this to all go down. And which is interesting in itself, because I'm not really a Home Depot guy. This is a Lowe's household usually. Wait, where are all the other guitar players at? But I can make the occasional exception just for a Facebook Marketplace meetup. And so the guy steps out of his car. I step out of my car. I look him in the eyes and I say, "Sir, you have the merchandise?" And he says, "I got the stuff." And what he does is he pulls out of his box a beautiful Walrus ACS1. And you see, I had done research on the ACS1 before, and it was one of those really cool things where this unit specifically had 6 different cab options and had 3 different amp options. And I was really excited about that, just having a variety of tones I could get, and I would never really have to change anything when I made said videos. But then fast forward about 6 or 7 months, I actually had an interesting idea. And it's because I had found out about something new, something that I had never really experienced, called profiling. Now what profiling is you're able to actually capture the specific sound of an actual amp into like a pedal or specific unit. So I wanted to do an A/B comparison versus my actual Fender Princeton amp that I'd had for a couple months. Which one could actually capture the sound better, or if anything could get closer? The amp modeler or the amp profiler? And the amp profiler that I was really obsessed with, because everyone on the internet was calling it like this Kemper killer or the next big thing for like $400, was called the Tonex. It's this really dope unit. Like I said, it was kind of the new kid on the block, and I was ready to compare it to like one of the modelers that I had in this room. But then I was like, whoa. If I'm trying to see what would go best or what would be the closest to a Fender amp, I might want to see if there are any specific modelers after Fender amps. And then I remembered a video that I had seen from one of my friends, Andrew Masters, who runs a great home studio channel, where one of his friends, who's a professional guitarist, brought into his studio Universal Audio Ruby, which is an amp modeler specifically modeled after a Vox amp. I remember seeing just how close it was, and I was like, okay, I know they have a Fender one. And then I had to find out, do they have one that may be modeled after a Fender or American amp? And I found the UA Dream 65. Now the thing is that the video went well, the review did well, I liked the tones coming out of both the units, but at the time I was really kind of in my profiling phase. Profiling, like I said, was something that was very new to me, which is why the Tonex stuck out so much. I really liked the tones that I'd gotten out of the Dream, but the technology behind profiling and capturing was just all that consumed my mind for a second. So the UA Dream 65 just kind of became eye candy in my studio for the next couple months. I just kind of left it on the shelf. Other than one live gig that I had where I needed an emergency modeler, I didn't even really use it. But then I started to do something interesting. I started to look back at that video, and I was like, I never really got to try out the full capabilities of what this unit could do. Like, I never even got to ask the big question, what is this thing? So as with any unit you ever use, you have to get it right at the source. And for that, that means miking this up correctly, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my ribbon mic and I'm gonna put it about 12 inches away from the preset button, a little bit off axis, right? Just to get a little bit more high end. Oh wait, I don't need to do any of this. All right, so here's the deal. Because it's modeled after a Fender amp, you know, I had to pull out the Silver Sky because, you know, I wanted an S-style guitar on this because I thought that would give it like the most accurate representation, I guess, of the sound that I'm trying to get. I'm gonna keep it in the 4 position because it gets a little bit noisy in this room, and we'll just see what it can do. One of the things that I feel like I forget like 99.9% of the time is that something that's modeled after like a Fender or American style amp, like that doesn't mean it just stays clean, because clean is the first thing that I think of, like word association. But even if the volume's on something like 5, you start getting a little bit of that breakup just like that. And that's before I even put on the boost or anything. I'm gonna change the speaker also, see what that can do. But yeah, like I said, this is already getting a little grimy. I like it. And I'm also gonna try and use the in-house reverb, just kind of see what it feels like when it's cranked, you know what I mean? I don't think it gets to ambient levels necessarily, but you can get like a good amount of space with that. All right, so let's get down to the meat and potatoes of all of this. I feel like whenever there's a new piece of gear on the market, or just a piece of gear that you're not familiar with, it falls into one of two categories. It's either like, why do people dislike this or hate this or whatever synonym you want to use? Or like, does this live up to the hype that people are saying about this? And in just doing more and more research about this unit right here, I've seen a lot of people give it some very high praise. And to be able to see that for myself, I think is the most important thing. And I'm really starting to wonder why it sat on my shelf for so long, and like, why I haven't been using it in more scenarios, because this literally is, in sound and listening back, probably the closest thing I've seen amp modeling wise to a Fender amp. And that's coming from someone who just sold his Princeton, so I might be a little bit nostalgic, but that's another story for another day. But like, there are a lot of really great amp modeling units out there. There are a lot of really great all-in-one pedal solutions, and I'm down with trying all of them. And like I said, I really love things like the Walrus ACS1 that can do 20 different things, but it's also cool and I think really unique when someone can pinpoint, okay, we're trying to do one thing alone, and that thing is we're trying to model this after a Fender Deluxe amp. We don't want this to sound like anything else, and we're just trying to do that as best as possible. Having this get so close, and also having the options with like the reverb and even having the tremolo options on here, I'm like, what's gonna happen next in the guitar world? But anyway, I want to know what you think. Have you tried the Dream 65? Have you tried like the UA Ruby or the Woodrow or any of those models, and what do you think of them? Have you put them on your board? And also, are you a Lowe's person or are you a Home Depot person? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, make sure to subscribe if you're in the Lowe's family. But to tie it up, thank you so much for watching this video. It's so cool to finally be able to like demo this and see the capabilities of something that I really didn't feel like I got to see the full capabilities of in the video that I did earlier. If you like the Dream 65 or the Silver Sky or any of the other gear that I might have used or mentioned in this video, I got it all from Sweetwater. The links are in the description. It's one of the best ways to support the channel if that's something you want to do, or if you're just curious about any of the gear that I usually use, make sure to check out those links. Like and subscribe if you had a good time, and most importantly, like most important of all, have a fantastic day.